Hello and welcome back. Um, Looking to our RFD 004 2025 draft equity and anti-racism plan. Barb, is there anything that you would like to add or present at this time?
Through the deputy mayor to council and staff and guests in the gallery. I've gone through the presentation with you previously. At this point in time, it's really as presented. I'm happy to answer questions. And also, I just wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude for all of the support in doing this work, and also my gratitude to all of the community members who shared their insights and ideas and experiences so that we could get started on this important work.
Thank you. And I'll just get Councillor Butler to put the motion on the floor. And then if there's any questions, we can go from there.
Proudly and gladly. I would move that Committee of the Whole forward the following motion to Council for decision, that Council adopt and implement Wolfville's first equity and anti-racism plan.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Barb, for all the work on this. This is wonderful to have our first one before us. I have just one question. Are we going to receive, I know for accessibility, we have those reports that come back, I think it's quarterly, at least yearly for sure.
Yeah.
So this being our first one, will we have a check-in in, say, 6 months' time and just see how that's going? And will our report look similar to an accessibility report as the years go on?
Thank you so much for that question. So I'm going to do two things. One, we'll continue to use the CAO report as that monthly check-in, which all staff are trying to do to keep council informed and updated on some major work and projects that we're doing, just so you always have that awareness of the efforts that are being made. We will be reporting back once a year. That's kind of been established in the plan. We will do that prior to budget. So again, we're aware of what we've achieved and potentially what we might need resourcing for go forward. So it will follow in a very similar way to accessibility. Accessibility, you'll be getting that report card next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. So the motion is on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
That looks like it's carried unanimously. So thank you for that. So we're moving on to the draft accessibility plan. Barbie, you're still there. I will get Councillor Elliott to put the motion on the floor. Unless there was anything you wanted to add to that before I put the motion on the floor, or
you know, I love an opportunity.
Sorry.
So a very similar expression of gratitude again to all of the folks in our community who continue to stay connected and to share with us in a very honest way the barriers that they face in our community. One of the things that I'm really proud of when it comes to the work we've been doing is that the work that the town of Wolfville is doing focused on accessibility and removing barriers is going well beyond just what's in our plan. You heard it this morning from Director D'Souza. Accessibility considerations are now a cultural norm within our work teams, and they are really becoming front of mind when it comes to all of our partnerships and the work that we do in the community. So we've really grown in that way. There's still a lot more work to do, but I'm really pleased to see the efforts are paying off. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I would move that the Committee of the Whole forward the following motion to Council for decision. That Council approve and adopt the Accessibility Plan 2025-2028 as presented.
And can
I'll second that.
Councillor Butler second there? And are there any questions or comments to Barb? No? I just want to personally thank you for all the work you've done. You have worked so hard, and I just want to personally thank the Accessibility Committee because they've continued to do this work, and Also, just moving forward, I think everybody's looking at this town with an accessibility lens, and so that, thank you for all the work on that and the continued work that you do and that both the committees do. So thank you for that. So the motion is on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. That looks like it's carried unanimously too. So thank you very much for that. Yay. Okay. So I'm looking to RFDs for Valley Waste Resort Management, 2025-26 budget. Looking to CAO Horn.
Take that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the solid waste management in Wolfville is provided by Valley Waste, as council knows. Under the current intermunicipal services agreement, each year the Valley Waste Board approves a budget with specific allocations to each municipality, which is then referred to those municipalities for further approval. Each participating unit costs are based on its proportion of population and uniform assessment applied to the net operating costs of Valley Waste. So that's how our particular number on an annual basis is determined. All associated contributions for the coming year are shown in your package in the table on page 49. This year, Valley Waste is their overall budget is increasing by almost $1.6 million. This is based primarily on an increased cost in the cost of curbside collection, which is done on contract through a competitive process. That is not a unique attribute of Valley Waste. Curbside collection costs for everything, but curbside collection and costs in solid waste have gone up significantly over the last number of years. The cost increase that we're seeing in Valley Waste is actually probably at a lower proportion than many other collection operations. So it's an increase in cost, but it could have been worse. Revenue is also projected to increase, but the largest mitigating factor keeping the increases relatively low for Valley Waste and for each of the individual municipalities participating is the presumed re-entry of Annapolis County into Valley Waste. So that municipality coming back into the fold on for the overall partnership in the volume of waste that comes from Annapolis County and their population and uniform assessment, that's what's keeping the overall increase to all the other partners relatively low. In total, Wolfville's contribution to Valley Waste will increase by just $1 under $4,500 to a total of $680,303 in the upcoming fiscal year. This is a reasonable increase and is recommended by staff for approval. Take any questions if anybody has any.
Councillor Palmer.
This is a point of interest, I guess, for me. When is this contract renegotiated?
The collection contract was just renegotiated, so it was just renewed in this fiscal year that's ending, so 24-25.
3 years, 4 years, or?
The term of the contract, I believe this contract term is for 13 or 15 years. We want longer terms on those collection contracts to be able to have a little bit more predictability in our fees going forward. Yeah.
I don't see any more lights on. Councillor Palmer, do you want to put the motion on the floor?
I would move that Committee of the Whole forward the following motion to council for decision. That council approve the Valley Waste Resource Management Authority's 2025-2026 operating and capital budget.
You can have a seconder? Councillor Elliott? Any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
That looks like it's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. So we're moving on to RFD 008 2025 Council Strategic Planning. CEO Horn, are you on again?
Take that one again. Yep. Town council has indicated its interest in completing a strategic plan. The RFD that's in front of you is essentially the trigger to begin that process. It's intended to provide staff with direction to procure a facilitator who will work with council and staff in the development of a plan. In keeping with Wolfville's historic approach and success seen in other municipalities, staff are recommending that this process be based on the following broad parameters, which are outlined in the RFD. One, council focus on a small set of strategic priorities. Keep that focus in a plan. That those priorities are within the control and the jurisdiction of council. There are things that you can affect with the powers that you have. And that they are also focused on this council term, again, time bound, so that you folks can spend the 3.5 years remaining on your term in a focused way. Additional attributes of strategic planning are offered in the RFD and are detailed on page 54. With that in mind, I'll pause there and invite your further discussion and feedback. And at the end of this discussion, what we're looking for is the draft motion that's in your package to, again, start the process by procuring a facilitator and then working with council over the coming months to develop a strategic plan.
Thank you, CAO Hart. Is there any questions for our CAO? Councillor Elliott?
Thank you. Way back in 2016, we worked with a facilitator to create a strategic plan, and it was quite a process. I mean, I think it took us the best part of a day. Do you envision something like that happening again?
Likely, yeah.
No questions. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a good opportunity for us to, I mean, we'll set our first budget and operations plan now, but when we get to sit down and do what we heard through all of this that we have been working on, it does let us set our priorities to make some meaningful change over the next 3.5 years. 3.5 years.
Thank you. Mayor McKay, can I ask you to put that motion on the floor?
I would move that committee of the whole forward the following motion to council for decision, that council direct the CAO to procure a qualified consultant to facilitate a strategic planning process that will determine and articulate the priorities and for the duration of this council term.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Motion is on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving right along. So I'm looking at Glenn again, CAO, for the next one, operational plan review.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is the second draft of the 25-26 operations plan. It's been provided for your information and further feedback. I'm not going to go through the entire draft again. We went through it extensively in the last session, but I will highlight the changes that have come about as a result of your feedback and further discussion with staff. You'll notice summary tables in each of the departmental sections. Those summary tables outline the various projects and project charters that are kind of in the back end of our operations plan that really make up the activities that we'll be doing this year. Those summary tables have been changed based on your feedback. The description and anticipated outcome columns have been merged to provide one more, tight and concise description of what will occur. A timeline column has been added on the end to give, again, some sense of when these activities will occur. And color coding has been added to distinguish between programs and services offered. So in a general sense, think of that as things that we're going to do with the public, and also preparation and planning. So things that we're not quite at the point of delivery, that we'll be doing a little bit more assessment and more planning to be able to follow up on. So all the tables have been adjusted to reflect that template. We've also added projects and priorities throughout the document. These include reinitialized focus on a regional recreation center, an assessment of the facility needs for the town. A lot of work has gone into that over the last number of years, and to pull all of that information into one concise point and bring it back forward to council for the direction. A review and revision to how we do our capital planning. The creation of a multi-year cash flow forecast that will facilitate us in making operating and capital decisions. There's added discussion or added commentary, sorry, on community safety and what we'll do in the community particularly through the actions and activities of our compliance officers. There's commentary on freedom of information and protection of privacy. And we've also added 2 projects, one related to the provincial Dyke Top Trail, which council is familiar with. It wasn't in the last draft, it's in this draft. And also at council's, based on council's feedback and commentary, a review of our recreation services, what we offer the public in terms of recreation services through this fiscal year. Some of the narrative throughout the document has also been updated. For instance, in the introduction, program and service delivery sections have been updated to include areas of federal and provincial jurisdiction. That's a bit of a juxtaposition to say, this is what they do, this is what we do. And also some commentary on the risks of not being able to deliver some of these projects and priorities as we've articulated. So those inherent risks as we move forward, and how we'll report on progress. The Housing Accelerator project has been broken into its major components. Instead of just having a broader title of Housing Accelerator, it's been broken into the major features for a little bit more detail. And projects and priorities have been moved into different sections to facilitate a logical placement of information for the general reader. So we've moved some things around in the document so that when you're thinking, oh, well, this particular project should be in this department, even if it's not actually being managed by that department, it's there anyway, so that the reader can, there's a more logical approach to where a reader can find something. We'll do further editing, some thorough copy editing prior to publishing. There's still just small spelling errors and things of that nature that are throughout the document, so we'll do proper copy editing. The council, what we heard at the door report has also been revised to make specific reference to the ops plan. So there's actually now specific, as for instance, page numbers to say this item is actually in this page of the ops plan. I realized, I think earlier this morning, that we may not have shared that what we heard report back with council yet, but it is done. So we'll circulate that again. And anything, as we've said before, anything that is not captured to the degree that council would like to see in the ops plan can then go forward to strategic planning for further discussion at that point. Up-to-date financial information will be added to the ops plan once the budget is further down the line and finalized. We will add all of those financial details as well. And not for today, but to put on your radar for when we do finalize the ops plan, we've also added a section where we would like council to tell staff of the entire document that you're seeing. These are council's top 4 priorities for this year. So in the absence of having a strategic plan at this point, as we've discussed, we'll have one later in the year. But if there are 4 projects or 4 initiatives that council feels very strongly that they would like to see, if we end up having to do prioritization to say we can't deliver on everything, we want council to tell us loud and clear, we want you to do everything you can to deliver on this. So that we won't be asking you to do that today, but as we finalize the plan, we'll be looking for that top 4 priorities. I think I'll leave it there, and then we can open it up for discussion and further feedback.
Thank you, CEO. And thank you for incorporating all the feedback. I know that's been a lot of work, so we do appreciate that. So I'll look to Councillor Van Niekerk.
Thank you. I see a lot of the things we discussed represented in this new draft, so thanks for that. But one thing that we talked about quite a bit the last time it was presented was the issue of the crosswalk down by University Avenue. And I see that there's some studies or analysis of crossings or sidewalks being done in here. I don't see that specifically called out. And I thought that that was something that we had discussed as being a priority. But
No.
tell me if I'm wrong, but I thought that that's what we had
So
talked about.
that priority, council has absolutely expressed priority on pedestrian safety crosswalks, the flow of traffic along Main Street, and it is a priority that we're just continuing to work on. We don't have a specific project for that intersection in the document just yet, because we're still kind of working through the details of what that could look like. There's to create an intervention at that crosswalk. There's a lot of safety concerns, traffic mobility concerns, things of that nature. So we are still working through all of that. We're just not at a place to be able to put a specific initiative on that just yet. But I can tell you through the active transportation work that we're doing, there will be multiple crosswalk improvements throughout town, particularly on Main Street. Those are outlined in the active transportation project in the ops plan, but we're still working on the specifics of that particular intersection at University Ave.
I just think if September rolls around and we don't have something in place to trial at that crosswalk, it's going to be a problem. I think that was one of the biggest issues we heard, and it's not even called out anywhere in our operational plan specifically. Like maybe it's just even adding it as a line item saying we're looking into solutions for this, but having it called out.
We can identify that particular crosswalk specifically, but yeah, at this point, we're just not in a position to talk about a specific intervention of that crosswalk because there's just too many That is probably one of the most complicated intersections in the town, given the topography of it, the offsetting of entrances and whatnot. So we can definitely name it as an area that we're doing more follow-up, but to get into a specific intervention, we're just not ready.
That's fine. I just think it should be at least named in the document.
Yep.
Otherwise, it looks like it's not part of it.
Yeah.
Councillor Elliott?
So going from crosswalks to intersections, I noticed in the plan that there were, I think, 3 intersections mentioned. But the one I was sort of thinking might be on there is the bottom of Orchard Avenue, where there was recently a serious MVA. And I've heard that there have been in the past, and it is a problematic intersection. So I just wanted to ask if that could be added.
We can take a look at that.
Councillor Elliott? Any more questions? Mayor McKidd?
Thanks. Yeah, good points by both Councillor Van Niekerk and Councillor Elliott. So maybe those could be added, say, not telling you where to put them, but I see a whole list of things in the AT network construction and upgrades. So maybe Main Street and Orchard fall somewhere in that vicinity. There's
Yeah.
a list of all of those there. So if we're just listing out the things that we
We'll-
want to look at.
Yeah, we can take further look into how to position that. The projects that are featured in that AT section
Yeah.
are specific to that AT project that's going to be delivered.
Got it.
But we'll take a look at where, how we can further clarify our intentions around that intersection and crosswalk safety piece.
Yeah, because I think we said though, that one, while that one is problematic, it's, if you went to the east end, they didn't mention University. They
Yeah.
mentioned the 4-way stop. So
Yeah.
depending on what side of town you're on, you'll hear a different viewpoint
Yeah.
of what is a problem and what isn't.
Yeah.
But I think both could use some TLC. I sent a note to the CAO because I think what I'm curious about is probably the ops plan has, I think, a lot of the things we did discuss. And then when I went to the capital part, what got me thinking was there was no columns on it to say whether it was ready for tender or whether, and who was doing it, whether it was going to be outsourced or not. Because even when it's in the capital plan, if staff are going to be looking at all of those facilities reviews and all those things, even though they're capital projects, they still are what you have to do operationally every single day.
Yeah.
So I think that putting those things together so we get a true picture of what staff are actually doing and how much work it is, I think that would be important for us to see and make sure that everything is actionable and
Yeah.
completable by the end of our year.
And we have that information, so we can, in the same way we added the column, kind of the current status column on the operations side, we can add it on the capital side. That's not, we have that information.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I have a quick question. Thank you for that question because I had that on but I knew you would pick that up in your financial acumen. I just have a question on our CMP and the policing service since we switched to the MPSA. So we took out the names of all I would skip the constables. Is that who?
Yep.
Can we add like just how many we have in town so people know? So there's nothing on there how many we have, and I don't think there is. And then so we kind of know.
There have been, but it may have come out. in a
If that
version.
came out, the
Yeah.
names, I think we took the names out, but the actual, how many, there's like 8
The
on the.
FTEs, yeah. Yep, we
If
can
we
add
could
that.
put add that back. And then also with the hiring of the new admin person over there, would that person belong in the CAO's office? Because we are hiring them, like where would they fit in?
It's a
in the
bit
policing
complicated.
Okay. Okay.
But no, they don't, they're not part of the CAO's office. They are truly, while they are hired by the town, they are truly a staff person of the RCMP.
Okay.
So it's a little complicated, but they won't be part of the CAO. They're hired by the CAO's office, but they won't be part of the operation.
Okay. So we can add them to also
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Elliott?
We've been critiquing, and I just wanted to add one kudo to my reading of the plan. The addition of Rachel Bedingfield's input, I think is a wonderful idea. Her initiatives in Kentville were spectacular. So that's a great move.
Yeah. Nod to our Director of Planning and Development for the foresight of that.
All good.
Councillor Van
I just have one more question around the analysis that you're doing for the after-school program offerings. How is that being led or managed? Can you add more color into that?
I don't know if we can at this point in time, but I'll look to Director Lake to put a little bit more description as to where the intentions are.
There's not a whole lot more to say other than we have Rachel coming in to look at a bunch of our rec offerings and how we're spending our time and what we're doing, and after school is going to be a big part of that. So more information will come back to council. Yep.
Any more? I don't see any more questions, so there's no.
So at this stage, what we'll do is make those further adjustments, give it a proper copy edit, and then the next time you folks see this document, which was I believe the committee of the whole meeting on April 1st, we will be looking to prioritize those 4 top priorities of council and then approve the document.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for all the work and the questions, council.
I just want to also just put a shout out to staff. This has been a significant effort over the course of many months. And the staff at the town have worked tirelessly to really reflect on where we are, reflect on things that have been working well, take the feedback of the community and council at different points, and really craft what I think is going to be, it's an ambitious agenda for the coming year, but I think one that'll get us make improvements in the right places and move the town further. So thank you very much for all staff who've contributed to it.
Thank you on that. And the document is fairly easy to read too. So I do appreciate that for the public. So I think that's a really good start there. So thank you for that. Okay, we are finished with that and we're moving on to correspondence information report from correspondence from Honorable John Lohr. Would that be CAO and Mayor with a tag team or CAO? I'll leave it to the CAO. He's got his light on, so.
I just left it on. Yeah, that's how you get tagged. Do you want me to start and then you can follow up? Yeah. So the information report that's in your document, sorry, I'm just getting back to my notes here. The information report in your document, while it is relatively light on details, it is all the details that we have at this point in time. So we received the letter that's in the IR from Minister Lohr on February 11th, asking, well, you've read it, asking for an indication of support of mineral development and the reduction of interprovincial trade barriers. But it's literally a 2-paragraph, 4-line letter without any details. Both resource development and interprovincial trade barriers are complex, overlapping, significant areas of public policy with both economic development implications, but also real community implications. There is simply not enough information to make any kind of informed decision at this point in time. When it comes to resource development in particular, through existing legislation, both provincial and federal, there are often consultation processes that are involved with any form of particular project. So to make blanket commentary runs the risk of stepping on the toes of those engagement processes when they come forward as well. So that's why the advice as it stands is to kind of hold pat. If more information comes forward on a particular project or something of that nature, and council feels compelled to take a position, it can consider doing so. I'll also note that these are areas of provincial jurisdiction and do not require municipal council's input or approval. So that's essentially where the advice stands, is not enough detail, and we can await further before making any form of declaration or decision. But I'll hand it over to the mayor for any additional commentary.
Thank you, Seo. Yeah, we had an interesting meeting with the NSFM with mayors and CAOs, and I sent out those documents to all. In highlights, there was Bill 1, Bill 6, the resolution of reforming law amendments, and then Bill 24, which was amendments to the Joint Regional Transportation Act. All of those were listed to have some effect on municipalities. It was very clear around the table from all CAOs and mayors that it was simply put on the table with absolutely no engagement from municipalities or the NSFM, who represents us at the table. So I did draft a letter with the CAO, which I shared with everyone. It has been sent in that says, we take no stand. We actually need information. Please bring us to the table. Please keep talking to us. We really want to be part of these discussions before blanket decisions are made. So that was sent out. I could see that just a second ago, Mayor Mood actually did send out an email from the NSFM that they are having conversations with Minister Tilley and Minister Lohr and trying to move the needle on getting us at the table to have more input and gather that information. So that's where it stands. Grateful for Mayor Mood to be at the table. She is an informed and powerful voice for us. And so we're grateful for that, but certainly open it up to any questions. But yeah, not a whole lot of information to give because there wasn't any given to us.
Thank you, CEO and Mayor McKay. Are there any questions? Comments?
Oh, yeah.
Either be something.
Do you think I might have a comment on that? Oh, man. Interprovincial tariffs, man, growing up on a farm that was a quota farm, man, I can't believe they're even opening that can of worms, because the quota system has worked very well for Nova Scotia. Whether or not you agree with it, it's worked for Nova Scotia. It certainly worked for the Annapolis Valley. And then it's talking about getting rid of the uranium ban. Are you kidding? Saskatchewan produces enough uranium to feed the world for the next 150 years, and we want to mine it in Nova Scotia? Come on. And I don't know about the rest of you guys here, but when I was going knocking on doors campaigning, not one person did I ask what they thought about mineral extraction in Nova Scotia, and not one person did I ask about getting rid of the tariffs in the interprovincial trade. And not one person mentioned it back to me. So I think that that letter was so out of line, it is not even funny. But that's just an opinion.
Well, we always welcome your opinion, Counselor Palmer. So there you go. Any more questions, or is that enough for now? I think the explanation was well done, and yeah. Hold on. I'm sure Mayor Mood will be keeping us informed, and she's quite a force. So we have a good trust in her for sure. So, okay, I guess we're going to move on. And we are on an information report for the Regional Recreation Center.
So we have a guest from Kings County who's going to attend to be able to answer questions and whatnot, Deputy CAO Rob Frost. We moved through the agenda this morning much quicker than I anticipated. So Rob was scheduled to join us at 11:30. I've messaged him to ask if he could come at 11. So if we could actually just move past that item for now and then come back to it.
So we are going to hold that one. So we'll move on to, you're just in the seat again. You just keep your light on.
That's right. That's right.
Oops, I didn't have my mic on.
So the CAO report is in your package for your review, provides a highlight of where things stand as of today. I'll just mention a couple of key things. The tender package for Kent Avenue sidewalk, it's outlined there as being prepared, but I believe it's posted at this stage. Alex just left the room so not be able to confirm, but I believe that tender is actually posted at this stage. Work continues. Sorry, I just lost my place here. Work continues with stakeholder discussions on the multi-use pathway on the top of the Bishop Bethwick and Grand Pre dike walls. This is a significant project that's being undertaken by the province of Nova Scotia. However, for obvious reasons, the town is involved to see that that the town's interests are reflected, and anything that occurs with those dikes is in alignment with our plans moving forward. There's a brief development report in the CAO report as well of specific note. The independent grocery store remodel. We're expecting approval on that on permits to be issued soon. And demolition permits are expected. The removal of the buildings may begin in April or May. So that's going to be fast coming upon us. There's also some additional detail on some other development work that is ongoing. Work continues on our municipal planning strategy and housing accelerator fund associated projects. I know there was a really productive workshop held with our planning advisory committee last week to further that committee's understanding of the various both challenges and opportunities that confront the town in terms of residential developments and moving some of our planning processes along. So I'll be interested to see what comes further out of that work. And then I think finally, I'll just mention that council is meeting in a special session this time next Tuesday to review the draft of the operating budget. Council has had that budget now for a week and a bit. So hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to start to review it, and we can have a really good discussion as we move forward to that session this time next week. A lot of that budget is centered on the funding for much of what you have seen in the operations plan that we reviewed earlier today. And I think maybe I'll just end it there. We've got some responses to previous public input sessions at the bottom of that report as well. But I'll maybe just leave it there and answer any questions that you folks have.
Thank you, CAO. Is there any questions of the CAO? Council Palmer?
I guess I did had a quick discussion with Director Lake about this, but is there a timeline for the dike work yet, or any idea what the timeline might be?
It's been a bit of a moving target, but I'll let Director Lake just
Can you hear me through? Yeah. So we had a really productive meeting at the Landscape of Grand Prairie office with all the stakeholders recently. And what we're steering towards, just, I'm happy to have this opportunity just so everyone understands the next pieces of work. We're steering towards a memorandum of understanding between the parties. That would be the marsh bodies, County of Kings, Wolfville, just on the concept of saying yes to the trail. I think that's a big thing that we have to get over the line first. The second piece would be who's taking on maintenance and responsibility of the trail once Department of Agriculture builds it. So I've said before, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Department of Agriculture is willing to put the capital in. They are building the project. So in terms of them actually building, I don't think anyone will be on a trail on those dikes for at least 4 years. And I'm even going to say 5. So they're about 40% design at this point. What they're looking for right now from the engineering side at Department of Agriculture and with transportation who's implementing the project is really, are we going to design a trail on the top of it or not? So before they get to 80, 90% design, we really need to know. So I'm anticipating having another meeting quite soon. I actually have a draft of the MOU I just received yesterday. Mark and I are kind of leading this to get a decision so that we don't push this further down the road. And I anticipate something coming to council once we have the parties in agreement. So I'm even hoping in April we could bring something forward, and then there'll be another set of decisions around maintenance for the municipalities. That doesn't involve all the other parties. So there's a lot of people at the table. The last meeting had 18 people there. So yeah, we'll maybe even provide a written update in a couple of weeks once we have another preliminary meeting, just to let everyone know how that's going. But from my seat, it's very positive.
But they wouldn't be any construction until probably minimum the 27 season, probably you're thinking, at minimum.
I think, yeah, it would be a heroic effort to do anything before that. I'm telling people 27. I think it is a moving target, but as we've discussed before, just getting the material for that project is going to be a big effort.
Any more questions? No, I don't see any more questions. Thank you, CEO.
I've got one.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Council-
I was just wondering about the site plan approvals that are listed in there. I know that the site plan approval process is great because it kind of expedites the building project so that they don't need to go through PAC and to council. But I was just wondering if there's an opportunity to have site plan approvals get presented to PAC more as like a FYI update. Because I think it would be important for that committee to know just generally what building projects are going on. So maybe, I know I wasn't at the last PAC, but I just find it, I'm on PAC, but then I only see it here in the CAO report versus having it come through, not as a decision-making process, but more of a, here's what's happening in town.
Yeah, so that's part of sort of what we want to refine with PAC. We put the questionnaire out, and that was a lot of the feedback, was that people would like a bit more information. We are walking a bit of a line on rights of applicants and what their rights in the MGA are and under our land use bylaw. So we definitely want to bring more information on active applications. It's just the level of detail will depend on the application, the nature of it. But Mark started that at the last meeting, and we'll keep that coming.
Was on our PAC
Okay.
agenda. You weren't there,
I
but that
wasn't
was
there.
on our agenda, that past meeting.
Okay. And then in the as of right approvals table that's in the document, it just doesn't have any street addresses in there. It just says 4-unit dwelling Maple, single dwelling unit Sterling. Is that on purpose or? Okay, so we can't see where that's happening.
So we're just navigating between a bit of level of privacy that people have, given that it is an as of right application, and how political, like quote unquote small p political we want to get with announcing people's projects in their homes. So that is something we'll bring more discussion on. It's very typical. Most municipalities would have a development activity report, and there's varying levels of activity and detail in those. So we're trying to bring an appropriate level of detail.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any more questions, so we will move on. So we're on to number 8, committee reports. Councillor Palmer, anything to add for audit or any questions?
As presented.
Oh, any questions? No, thank you. Looking to Councillor Elliott, anything to add for accessibility advisory committee?
As presented, but I would repeat my thanks to Barb, or the committee's thanks to Barb.
Thank you. Move on to equity and anti-racism advisory committee. Anything to add, Councillor Butler?
As presented for that particular date, I'm wondering if, because we don't have another meeting for 2 months, we had a meeting last night, if I can give like a 2-sentence
Absolutely.
verbal report just to
Yes.
get it
Yeah.
done. So last night we had a meeting and it was very bad. Now that the plan has passed, last night was a committee orientation meeting where we just went through the hows, whys, what we do, We talked a lot about policy and what the role of the committee is, the terms of reference, et cetera. It was very informative. And we were able to close in time to go to Soups and Sides, which was great because that is a very equity-driven event. Very happy and thankful for the work that Barb has done and our committee. They're all very excited to see things move forward. Thank you.
Are there any questions? No? Thanks for adding that. So it's sort of hard when you're the day before and then you have the meeting and then you have a long gap. So thank you for clarifying that. Town and Gown, is there anything that you wanted to add, Mayor McKay, to that?
Nope, thank you for doing the report.
Okay. Is there any questions? No, and that's just as submitted. Thank you. Then we'll, okay, sure.
What is a uni lodge?
So it is something that started in Australia and it's sort of specific to students and what their needs are on campus. So that's, can you add anything more?
Is it a corporate thing or?
No, it's not. Yeah, Devin, do you want to? What? Yeah, that's sort of how we're modeling it after Australia to come here because it's worked so successfully, but it's sort of navigating to sort of what students' needs are on campus. So I could equate it to maybe having more apartment sort of styles or whatever works. So if Devin has anything else to add, yeah, that's, can't even remember what I wrote, but sort of that's just more of a model that's presented to a student life.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll move on to external reports. IMSA, we have a verbal report. Is that you, Mayor McKay?
Yeah, I've attached the minutes of that meeting like I do every other month, because Brenda does such a great job of getting that information together. It was actually the shortest meeting, I think, in the history of that committee. I think it was about 20 minutes. It was just simply the update of what was there. The only thing to add is the King's Transit double app is supposed to be live very, very soon. It was having issues determining whether the bus was actually traveling east or west. So I think they've got themselves pointed in the right direction, hopefully, and that'll be up and running soon.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Mayor McKay. Moving on, the REN. Am I looking at?
That was as presented and very similar to what they presented to us this morning.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No? Okay. Yep, sure.
I just want to say, because the WBDC didn't meet this month, we canceled it, but I just wanted to make a comment that that's because we're still working through the budget draft. So that should be coming through to council for presentation at some point.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Van Niekerk. I'm sure Councillor Palmer, who's the councillor on that committee, will refer to that. So if there's anything that he wanted to add, that would be his role in that and being on the WBDC. So thank you. I should turn my mic on. We're at public input again. I do see there's still people in the audience and I do want to thank you for that, for being so patient. So if there's anybody that would like to speak, it's the same situation as the first time. You have 5 minutes, state your name and your address. And CEO Horn will let you know if you've gone over time.
Yeah, it's easier. There was anything to say. I have a couple of questions to this. Is it on? Yes, it is. Mayor McKay, you spoke about writing a letter in terms of.
Sorry, ma'am, can I just get you to state your name for the
Oh,
record?
Andrea Lynn. Sorry. That you wrote a letter in response to Laura's request for support. And it was not for mineral, it was for resource development. He didn't use the word mineral at all in his letter. So just to correct that, you did use the word mineral. So you have a group of mayors and wardens that are meeting about this? Is that, did I hear you correctly or?
I'm sorry, this isn't an opportunity for dialogue. You can provide input and ask a question, which will be followed up at another point.
Okay. Could I have a copy of Mayor McKay's reply? Do I ask you that or do I ask the?
Yeah, you've just asked, we can follow up.
Okay, okay. The other question I have brought up already is I'm just wondering if you have carefully examined doing away with composting of organic material that used to be done in the old facility. I've been told that the Provincial Department of the Environment is putting all sorts of restrictions on that, which really doesn't make sense. If it's organic, it's natural. So, and there are things like surveillance cameras and other things that could be put if you're not going to just have a 1-day deposit, if it's going to be open. We seem to have AI and surveillance cameras solving every other problem. Why can't it solve the problem of people putting their yard wastes in a spot? Thank you. That's all I wanted to say and ask.
Thank you. Is there anyone else sitting in the gallery that would like to speak? Okay.
Caroline Whitby, Maple Avenue. I was surprised to see the compost site, that it is back on the agenda. I would be very interested in knowing the actual number of individual households that use the compost site, certainly a percentage of the population. And if, as we've heard some proposed changes today, will that allow, if it's open, commercial businesses to go and dump at any time? Living on Maple, obviously, if it's going to be increased traffic day and night, that would be a concern. So I'm still wondering why we need it when we do have access at Valley Waste Management and the whole of the municipality of Kings. If you live in Halls Harbour or you live down in Kingston, you would drive your waste if you're not able to use your green bin to Valley Waste. I do have a question for, and I know we voted on the budget, but if people are concerned about the amount of waste, households are allowed, I think it's 8 bags. Would it be possible if you don't put out 8 bags, to maybe put out 8 bundles or 2 green bins. I certainly don't put out 8 bags of garbage every week. So I'm just wondering, I know would Valley Waste allow that as part of our contract? So I'll mention that. There are some great things going on. I really like the Dykeland Trail information that I'm hearing, the decision in the that going forward, all sidewalks will be concreted rather than asphalted. That to me is a very positive step. I hope the budget will allow ongoing maintenance through the winter times of all sidewalks as they are improved. And then I will simply, there was something else I wrote down. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I know you've heard me talk about it before, but I did want to say that as we think about the pool, as we think about Wolfville, I was excited to hear that the students at Acadia have approved the developing affordable student housing on campus. They're the first student union to do that, which was really exciting to me. It's the students in an innovative idea. It's housing on campus. Is there a way, President Hennessy has said that land could be, as the farmers market has a lease of a small amount as they look at that Southeast campus and housing going forward, if we could look at a pool on campus there that fits in with all those other positive things that are going on campus. And maybe Events Acadia could then think about looking at bringing Canada Games to Acadia. They tried, I believe, in 2011. But maybe when we talk about economic opportunities, there's a chance to bring Canada Games here. That would be a great use of any new and developed pool in the area. A little disjointed, I'm sorry, but a lot of thoughts in my head. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking out in the audience, is there anyone else that would like to speak in public input? And anyone online? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're just going to take a brief recess and we'll reconvene when Deputy CEO arrives, right? Okay, thank you. And we are back. And I am looking to to Deputy CAO Rob Frost from the County of Kings to do an information report. I don't even have mine.
Sorry, I'll just kick us
Oh,
off.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. It's
I should have checked to see if your light was on because it's been on most of the time.
it's a bit of a tag team.
Yeah.
So I wrote the information report with all of Rob's information. So he effectively created all the content, but I'll just run through it very briefly, and then Deputy CAO Frost is here to answer any questions as well, based on his experience and the discussions that have been occurring at Kings County Council. So just very briefly, in the spring of 21, Kings County, Kentville, and Wolfville jointly commissioned a feasibility study for a regional recreation facility. A working group of elected officials and staff came together at that time to oversee the project. Throughout 23, the project advanced through meetings with potential landowners, research of comparable facilities, and discussions with various government levels to assess support. By spring of 24, the process had progressed to shortlisting of potential locations. A regional working group has recently been reconvened. It hadn't met since just prior to the fall municipal elections. And that working group at this stage consists of the three CAOs or their delegates and the three mayors or their delegates. At this stage, it's the three mayors. So much of the information that is in the IR has been presented in one form or another to council over the course of the last 3 years. And it's also been recently represented to Kings County Council. On the first page of the IR, we've got a concept drawing of the proposed facilities. In phase 1, that facility includes an 8-lane pool, a double gymnasium with 3 tracks, 4 multi-purpose rooms of various sizes, and then public assembly space and administrative offices. Various governance scenarios for a facility of this nature have also been discussed, excuse me, and put forward in the feasibility study. However, the prevailing recommendation at this stage is the facility be municipally owned and operated and governed by some sort of partnership agreement among the participating municipalities. So any negotiations that have taken place to date among the partners on the particularities of those governance relationships are still in camera. Any of the discussions that may have taken place around funding arrangements, proportions, things of that nature, again, are all still in camera, as is any potential site. Those items are still all in camera, confidential at this particular point. Maybe I'll leave it there. And if there's any questions, we're going to have an in-camera session after this as well, where we can get into some of those other topics. But at this stage, maybe I'll leave it there. And if council has any questions, myself, but likely Deputy CAO Frost will try to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions regarding what CA Horn just said before we turn it over? Okay, Councillor Van Niekerk.
I was just wondering when these drawings were done.
Hi, thanks, Council, and to you, Councillor, for the question. This was part of the study that was completed in 2023, which is when 3 councils received the proposal.
Thank you.
And I'll just note too, the feasibility study that we're referring to, that's been posted on Wolfville Bloom since it was received shortly after 2023.
Those 2 sketches, there's no scale on there. How big are those buildings and how much footprint do you actually need to make them?
To the councillor, the phase 1, it's about 75,000 square feet. So it's just under 2 acres of building space. So that would be the phase 1. And then the phase 2 would basically be double that if that were to proceed.
Sorry, I just have another question.
Councillor Van Niekerk.
I guess I'm just trying to understand in the process where we are with what we're talking about, like how locked in are these drawings and ideas?
I would say that this is just really a concept drawing from the feasibility report. So exactly what it looks like would have to be determined, with the three partners or whoever's partnered. And as we get more refined towards an actual design and build, if we proceed. So it's really just a concept,
So not locked in.
not locked in at all.
Are there any more comments or questions before we move on?
I might just reiterate kind of where we are in the timeline of decision making as well, just for council and the gallery. And if I make an error on any of this, Deputy CAO Frost, please correct me. So the regional working group, as I mentioned, has recently been reconvened. That working group will continue to meet to coordinate information sharing and decision making among the partners, so that everything is happening kind of in a logical sequence and at the same time with each of the partners. The anticipated timelines, and I double underline anticipated because a project of this scale always encounters some form of challenge. Once information is finalized, there will be some level of public engagement at some point through this process. Council decision to proceed, we're anticipating to be able to facilitate those in the spring of 25. So that'll be the decisions among all councils. There will be off ramps all the way along through that decision-making process to say, okay, as we get more information before we're finally locked in, there will be opportunities to say, okay, we're going to take the next step. But if all of a sudden we learn something that doesn't work for a particular partner, there are off ramps throughout that process. Procurement and design, procurement of design build, if we were to move forward, is anticipated for spring of 26. Contract awards would be for approximately a 2-year build with construction complete in the spring of 28. So again, these are large, complex projects where timelines can move. But that is generally speaking, if we were to make the determination to move forward with a regional complex of this that's been conceived here, those are generally speaking what the timeline would look like. Okay.
Yep, thank you. Any more questions before I pass it on to, where do we go from here?
If there's no more questions for the public session, we will, if the chair would like to make a motion to go in camera and we can share a little bit more detail.
I wasn't sure. Okay, Councillor Palmer.
I got a question for Mr. Frost here. I think you guys at the county presented something here last month. What did you present to them, and where's the county sitting?
To the councillor, so yes, we did present to the our council just last month. Basically similar information to what CAO Horn has, as well as I think he's included in your package, the economic impact study.
Yeah.
So we talked about the economic impact of such a facility in the area. So that was one of the main things we talked about. The other thing we talked about was a little bit what CAO Horn just talked about was the kind of step process that we're planning on taking. So which would be a discussion on land. And once we have that discussion finalized, then we would move on to finalizing the build and exactly what it is. And then we'd finalize the funding measures from all parties type thing. So again, that kind of step process where there's a yes or no decision for each council.
So there was no vote or anything. There was no other than discussion. There was
Just discussion and they received that briefing. Yep.
Okay. I just had one question. Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Mayor McKay.
No, I just wanted to thank Deputy CEO Frost for giving us that information, because it does quite explicitly lay out, I'm sure it was a lot of work to do that report on the economic impact. So thank you for that, because it does really lay it out for us on what the impact of a facility like that does for our region. certainly from an economic standpoint, but it also sort of just brings to light all of the value it adds for community wellness and all of the efforts it will bring to our community. So thank you for that, to you and your staff.
Thank you, Mayor McKay. I just had a question, and maybe Mayor McKay, you can answer this about when the working group of the CEOs and mayors will meet again. I know there's, with the closure of the Acadia Pool, there seems to be, a real big push on this. And I do respect the timeline of the 3 years, and that does seem quite quick just by listening to it. But I know that, shovels in the ground, people will want those fairly soon. So do you have an idea when you're going to meet again? And are you the chair of that group? Sorry.
No,
Or-
I'm not the chair. That's usually one of the elected officials.
Okay.
I believe we said it'd be about a month. We met about 2 weeks ago now, I think it was, and about a month from now, after some of these discussions have happened with each of the councils, that we'd reconvene.
Mhm.
Yep.
CEO Frost, are you doing the same presentation to Kentville Council as well, or have you been asked to do that?
We've made the offer that if they'd like us to come, that we would, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Nice to have us all on the same page.
So I don't see any more questions or comments from council. So at this time, can I have a motion? Is this where, okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn to in camera? I'm looking at Council Butler.
I can do
Yeah.
that, certainly. I would move the council move to an in-camera meeting under section 22(2)(e) of the Municipal Government Act for contract negotiations.
And a seconder on that? Councillor Palmer, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.